I tell a lot of people, try not to see Amazon as the bad guy. They really aren't this emotional company who's just trying to squash their authors or their sellers or anything like that.
Yeah.
But there are some rules that can come up, and you can get caught up in some stuff, and just don't be emotional about it. So,
like you said, on their behalf, if you don't defend your own trademark, then you can't defend your own trademark when you need to.
yeah, you'll end up losing it.
Mm-hmm.
So we had some fun with that. Learned a few lessons, so that was good. It's always good to learn lessons without having to spend thousands and thousands of dollars. So, what were your books about that you wrote in the 90s? I'm curious.
Oh my gosh! So that's part of my story. So I was a banker back in the 90s, fat, dumb, and happy. Never imagined doing anything else. I mean, they were paying me stupid money for a college dropout. It was wonderful. But when my bosses started to lean into me to, hey, hire people and teach them to what you're doing, and let's have a whole team of David Hancocks, I'm like, I don't even know why I'm successful. So of course I tried and I had some success, but I started for the first time in my life really kind of diving into personal development. What is it that's making me successful? So I studied industry specific stuff and non-industry specific stuff. I mean, I went to Zig Ziglar, Tom Hopkins, Bill Backrack, Todd Duncan. I mean, you name it, all the gurus from the 90s, man. I am
sure.
We published some of them since, but I'd go to the courses, I'd go to their seminars, I'd buy their courses, I'd implement. I mean, I fine-tuned processes, I hired assistants, and it all worked, but nothing really gave me that feeling that, hey, this is why I'm successful. It was good stuff, but it wasn't until one day I came to work and a copy of Guerrilla Marketing was sitting on my desk. Now, it was in its second edition. Actually, I call it the second and a half edition because I think it was called Guerrilla Marketing in the 90s at that point. And I mean, to this day, nobody has confessed to giving it to me. So it was like divinely left on my desk. And I read it and resonated with it and realized I was a guerrilla and didn't know it. I was leveraging my time, my energy, my imagination, serving others, helping others realize their goals. And that was why I was a success. And it wasn't because of the $100,000 a month that we were spending in marketing and advertising in the 90s, because they were just doing that because everybody else had done that. And that's what they've been doing forever, but I knew that wasn't where my business was coming from. So I immersed myself in guerrilla marketing. And in one of the books, I can't remember which one, Jay said, hey, if you have questions, email me, jview@aol.com. And I did. I emailed him. Never expected him to respond. He did. We became pen pals. Ended up hiring him as a coach. And we ended up becoming fast friends, long history with Jay. But Jay was the one, after I hired him as a coach, basically didn't teach me anything more than I had already learned. Just his stories, his accountability, the fact that it had a name, all that was very, very powerful for me. But he did have me do one thing that ended up changing my life. And as you can imagine, that was writing my first book. He said, David, if you wanted to charge more and negotiate less, you got to keep doing what you're doing because it's working. You're having an impact. You're making a name for yourself, but you need to be an authority. You need to write a book. And he said the same thing about clients that would never come out of that you wish you could get that now start coming out of the woodwork because of the book and media attention because of the book. And all those things came true. But so my first books were in the banking business. In fact, my first 3 books were. Long part of the story was, I ended up getting traditionally published. Now, Jay was my coach. I'm sure he helped a little bit, but I don't remember how many rejections I got, but I got some. But I ended up getting picked up, got a book done, and it exactly what Jay said. It doubled my income. I doubled all my fees and nobody questioned me. And then sure enough, clients that I wished I could do business with started coming out of the woodwork. And sure enough, I was the local media favorite because I was the only local guy who wrote a book on the banking business, And so that kind of started my path. So the first one was, and this was part of the reason why I started a publishing house myself, is that I sold the rights to the book and they did everything they wanted to without me. I had no input in anything. I had no input in the title, cover, nothing. In fact, when I got my galleys in the mail a couple of weeks before pub date, they added 3 chapters to the book. And I could have written them if they had asked, but but then my second and third book, which I didn't know that I had committed to 3 books.
But when read the fine print,
it's not 35 pages. No, I was just excited to get picked up. But I guess I did well enough that they said, okay, Dave, now it's time for book 2. And what? Not with you. But I went whining to Jay, who at this point, is my mentor, friend. And I've said, man, I don't want to do another book with these people. They suck. No relationship. I had to get permission for everything. They had to approve my PowerPoint presentations. I bought all the copies I could buy at a discount. I was paying retail for them now. And it was crazy. I was, got on the speaking circuit. It wasn't fun. And I'm like, I'm a relationship person. I don't want this. So I said, well, Jay said, well, you got to do it. You're contracted and, we just work through the limitations and you can still, be very successful with it. And I'm like stomping my feet like a 5-year-old, like, not unless you do it with me. And he said yes. So my second and third book were co-authored in the Guerrilla Marketing series, and they were called Guerrilla Marketing for Mortgage Brokers. Now, I ended up getting the rights back and self-published just because I could. But that was amazing. So then Jay stopped charging me $10,000 a month to be a client, and he started to be just my co-author and friend. And just, it was amazing. I sold 40,000 copies of the book to the bank I worked for. And that helped out a lot. And even with Jay as a lead author, he had sold 15 million copies. Well, I'm not sure about by that time, but he'd sold millions of copies. But we still struggle with the relationship with the publisher. We fought over everything. Not fought for everything. And some things we won, some things we didn't. Like the camouflage motif, like Jay and I's most famous book together is Guerrilla Marketing for Writers. So even that camouflage motif had been so popular with the Guerrilla books, we've really struggled to get the publisher to do that. And it was no relationship. And then again, same thing. They would get in our way as entrepreneurs. We had to get permission to talk about it. And it was no good. But the straw that broke the camel's back for me, and I'm probably going off on tangents, I'm sorry, but for traditional publishing was when the second edition was to come out. They wanted me to do the third book, which they wanted to be a second edition of Guerrilla Marketing for Mortgage Brokers. So it was supposed to come out in 2000. And in April of 99, Jay and I get an email that says, hey guys, from the publisher, said, hey guys, we need you to remove all references of the internet from your book. No internet, no World Wide Web, no email, no chat rooms, no forums, no anything related to the internet. You can't have any book. And we're like, are you kidding me? That's half the book.
The reason why?
They thought, now you're probably too young for this, but they thought the Y2K bug was going to kill the internet. Now in 2000,
I remember Y2K, yeah.
It was an issue. It was real, especially in banking. We had things we had to do. It wasn't something to ignore, but nobody in their right mind thought the internet was going to go away except my publisher. So the second edition came out and it was bomb. Yeah, it was a bomb. I mean, it did all right, but a marketing book in 2000 without the internet was ridiculous. So that was like, I'm done with traditional publishing. Why do I need a publisher? I'm a best-selling author. Then I self-published 3 books, and one of them was the eBay book. And loved and hated that too. Loved that, but hated that I couldn't get them into bookstores. Media wouldn't talk to me about them. So there were pros and cons to every decision we make as humans, but there were pros and cons with that traditional side and pros and cons with that, self-publishing.
Well, there were pros and cons, and I not to interrupt you, but there were pros and cons in 2000 and 2003 that are different pros and cons. Like they change over time. So I want people to like always remember, like, oh, but if you self-publish, because with my experience, I know exactly what you're talking about. But if someone's listening, oh, if you self-publish, I can't get in. Like things have changed. And I used to use the example of like back then, if you weren't on Barnes and Noble shelves, no one considered you like a real author. Like, oh, you're just on Amazon. Like if you were just on Amazon, people didn't look at you like a real author. Today, I would say it's completely flipped. No one knows where their closest Barnes and Noble even is.
Yeah.
And if you're on Amazon, they consider you as much an author as anything else because Amazon is more established. In 2000, 2001, it's like, oh, they sell books. Like that's not a real bookstore. It's on the internet. So times change, and the pros and cons will change with it.
Yeah. It's funny. Fast forward to today, Amazon is our largest, I own Morgan James. So Amazon's our largest client, but they're about 24% of our business. Surprisingly, the bulk of our sales are coming now from brick and mortar. There's a new resurgence, which I'm really enjoying. Though during COVID, when they had a lot of bookstore returns, because books are sold to stores 100% returnable for life, that was a little terrifying when we had 170,000 returns.
I never thought of that, but yes, that would be unexpected. A contingency plan for that would be like, oh yeah, if the world shuts down, we're going to have a return of 100,000 books.
We budget for 25%, not 100%.
Listen, let me write a whole book about that. Yeah, COVID probably brought in a whole new series of books. If COVID strikes again, or so, if a pandemic hits, here's what to do. Business advice for every single niche you can think of. Because we've lived through it. It's like, the next generation who has never lived through something like a pandemic. There's going to be the opportunities that arose. There'll be a lot of people trying to capitalize on those things, as well as like a lot of the mistakes. You don't realize these things are going to happen. People are going to be looking for information, and a lot of people love to get their information through books.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not everybody, but a significant amount. And I love what you said, that even your book gave you almost like celebrity status, and I can raise my prices, and I can get whatever client I want. 25 years ago. And I say it's still the same today. Like I feel we're very similar in the sense of like we understand the power of books, and we love helping people get their information published and then leveraged into their business or their personal brand or whatever they're trying to do with it. And it's so rewarding because when you've done this long enough, you know it works, and it's not that difficult. And there's so many people out there that can benefit from it. They simply just don't know about it, or they don't know the steps, or they need a little confidence boost. And it's like, here we are. We're happy to help.
And it's still true. Most of us authors, I dare say every nonfiction author, will earn more income and opportunity because they wrote the book than they ever will from the book itself.
Oh, by multiple. I mean, it's not even close. Like I talk to a lot of people who are like, I can't wait to get like my big fat royalty checks, and like, who's going to give me an advance? And I'm like, no. Yeah. Like maybe, but not with me. That's not what I am going to recommend. To me, it's like having the book. It's leveraging, published author status. It's getting your book into people's hands to get introductions and start business. Yes, you will make some money on royalties. You will get those emails from Amazon every month, depositing, 72 cents from Amazon Brazil for some random copy you sold. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
You got your main market. You got all these little markets that are also putting a few dollars in your account. But that's your bonus money, right? That's you measure it in like the business sense afterwards.
There was a famous interview by of Jay just before he passed away, and they asked him how much money did he make in royalties on his guerrilla marketing books, because he sold millions. From 1984 to 2014, he said he made about $35,000. And he
sounds like a lot of money by itself until you compare it to the number of books sold.
Yep, and he said he ended up making $10 million because of it.
Exactly. And I always try to remind people of that, because I want to just have the right expectation, right? Like I've heard the secret of happiness, and it sounds like a little on the dim side, is to have low expectations, right? Or with anything. Like if you expect to have like an okay time and then you have a good time, then like your expectations were exceeded. Now you're like, this is amazing. But if you go in thinking it's going to be amazing and it's just good, then you're disappointed. It's like, well, the thing was the same. It's just how you approached it. So if you have the right approach going into it, being like, look, I'm not going to measure the success of my book based on my direct royalties. I'm going to measure it this way. You have the right expectations, and then you're not like disappointed when like, oh, I only sold like 100 copies. Well, dude, 100 copies in launch will get you to the top of most charts.
I know,
right? Most subcategories. And I'm a big proponent of, please put your stuff in the right subcategory. I know people are like, put it in this little niche and you'll be number one. I'm like, yeah, but that's not your niche. I don't want to go ranting on some of the bad players in the self-publishing, because it's just not needed. You don't have to sell that many copies, depending on your category.
It's funny though that that anticipation or that perception or that expectations, as good as we try to do it, I've never, in 21 years doing this, 3,800 authors, I don't think we've ever had an author that's been happy with their sales. Whether it was like with Brendan Burchard or Jeff Walker, who sold 60 to 90,000 copies their first month. Like, that's all? What's going on? Or if you sold 50, that's all? What's going on?
Well, I personally bought 500 copies of Jeff Walker's most recent launch on Kindle.
Awesome.
So I bumped you up a little bit. However, he probably didn't make much royalties because it was when it was launched at 99 cents.
Yeah.
And I bought 500 Kindle copies, and I still have a few hundred of them. Because I don't know if you use that as a promotional tool for the authors that you work with, but I buy my copies. So I'll drop my price to 99 cents. I'll buy multiple copies of my own Kindle book. And then I'll offer to give people a Kindle book if they buy the regular book, or, hey, join my email list. And by then the price is back up at $9.99 or $12.99, whatever it might be. And people are like, oh my gosh, you're giving me your $10 Kindle book? Because it's not just PDF or download. It's like legit link, goes to Amazon. It says $10. It's like, wow, Chris, how can you afford to give $10 books to everybody? And I'm like, oh. That's on the back end. And Jeff's book was like $12.99 for a long time. I think he's brought it down to $9.99 on Kindle. So I loved it when it was $12.99. Yeah. Like, hey, join my online community and I'll give you a copy of Jeff Walker's launch. And they're like, that's a good deal. I'll definitely check that out, because Chris is giving me a $13 gift. I was like, well, I bought it for 99 cents. So I recommend this to so many authors, because, of course, as an author yourself, you can drop price and buy your own copies and be as economical as possible. But you can also do it with other people's books, and you can track price and say, look, let me know. I've seen in the past that launch goes to 99 cents. Let me know if it goes to 99 cents again. And if it does, you get an alert, and you buy copies, and you can give them away or whatever you want to do. The only thing you can't do with them is sell the links. Obviously, that would violate terms of service,
Right.
but you can give them away, use them as lead magnets. And it's, in my opinion, one of the most highly leverageable lead magnets because it has this anchored higher value price on
Yeah.
Amazon, and you're
Yeah.
able to acquire it for significantly lower price. Especially if it's like in your niche, if it's like a complementary type product. If you're teaching
Yeah.
people about self-publishing, like, yes, they would be interested in launch. They would be interested in all these, kind of complementary type authors. And it's, the marketer in me is like, oh my gosh, there are so many things that you can
I
do, and people simply don't know about it.
I love it. I love giving away ebooks because, according to Publishers Weekly, 87% of ebook, especially nonfiction, but 87% of nonfiction ebook buyers prefer print. So if you give them an ebook and they like it, they're going to talk about it, which is the number one best way to sell books. Then if they really like it, maybe they'll probably 87% chance buy the physical book, which is where the publisher makes money.
I'm trying to remind people that because I do it all the time. I listen to an audiobook and I was like, oh, that was really good. I wish I had a printed copy so I could go back and like highlight some things.
Yeah.
Because I got the little highlight thing on the Kindle app, but it's just
It's not
not the same. No,
Yeah.
not even close. So I will go back and buy the physical book of an audiobook. And I tell that to everybody that'll listen so that they realize, wait a minute, I can give away the digital, the Kindle, the PDF, and it has a high potential of leading to an actual sale of the physical book as well.
So we do something pretty cool with our book. So any Morgan James book, you can get the ebook edition for free.
Nice.
So it's an unexpected value add. But in the process, they can download it to their Kindle, the Kobo, the Nook, or whatever. But in the process, we capture their name and their primary email address, and we give them to the authors.
Yep.
The average is like 11%, which is 11% more than Amazon's going to tell us who bought the book, or 11% more than Barnes & Noble is going to tell us who bought it.
I call Amazon the black hole of marketing because like once they go to Amazon, you don't know if they bought it, you don't know how many they bought, you just don't know.
Yeah.
So I do recommend to a lot of authors that I work with to be like, make sure like in the beginning of your book you have some kind of clear, incentivized call to action.
Yeah.
Give them something digital, private video, bonus chapter. Give them the Kindle book, if you want. Get their email, have them join your online community, have them follow you on social media, reward something.
Yeah.
And the second part of that is make sure that if I had one thing that I would like call my secret is like write your book in such a way that you benefit even if you give your book away.
Exactly.
I think people finally get it and they're like, wait a minute, we're not trying to like sell books. Like, well, we are, but we're trying to get it, especially for like, this specific niche of, using a book to, like leverage your published author status, that type. Like if you're trying to sell fiction, great. I'm not your guy. It's a different game.
Yeah.
But for this, it's like, we want your book, your information, your content, your knowledge in as many people's hands as possible. And we want to do that as economically as possible. And if you set things up the right way, then everything's wide open, right?
Yeah.
It becomes very fun. Just help people and give your product away and just see where things go and just have like, a plan. Okay, people that are interested, where do they go? Are they going to sign up? Like, what's the next step?
Yeah.
And most authors are, not marketers.
Yeah.
I'm guessing you've said that in a few meetings.
With love and respect, but yes, they're not. And it's so hard to sell a book. Nobody really wants to buy another book. We've got books we haven't started. We have books we haven't finished. Why do I want to buy another one? So you really got to lean into being that authority and giving the value so they're compelled, seeing you as the right person and the right thing at the right time, and enough bribery and whatnot value, then they'll buy the book like you, like by me by the hundreds.
Exactly. There's a lot of things you can do to encourage people to buy a book, especially with social media, in terms of like, what problem does my book solve? Okay, well, go find people who are basically telling you live on social media that they have this problem.
Yeah.
Just go answer their question. Brand your social media profiles very intentionally. So if someone says, who the heck is this who answered my question on the internet? They go click on your profile. They're like, oh, this guy is an expert in this. He's written the book, which for the foreseeable future is just such a message of like authority, right? Someone introduces you on stage, they're like, oh, this guy literally wrote the book, right? They don't say literally wrote the best book on the planet or the greatest book of all time, just wrote the book.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and of course, I preface everything by saying, look, if someone's going to write a book, it has to actually be good. Okay. Like, do not write some ChatGPT nonsense and claim no, it has to actually be good. If it's actually good, then everything that we're talking about is on the table.
It works
Okay.
better. Yeah.
Otherwise, you're going to get found out, and it's going to be like, wait, your book, you're not actually an expert in this. But you get to leverage that. Like, I literally wrote the book, and people will see that. And for the foreseeable future, people look at authors at an elevated status of, okay, this guy knows what he's talking about. And I would make the case that it's a little of a disconnect now, because we know self-publishing is easy and fast and free, where it used to be, you as someone who's traditionally published, expensive, took a long time, had gatekeepers, editors, agents, like
Yeah.
all of these things in between, which in a way kind of filtered out to be like, look, only the cream of the crop can actually come out on top of
Yeah.
the old publishing model. Now, literally anybody can publish. So it's
Yeah.
more important than ever to actually be good. But you're able to leverage, I would say, like society's kind of view of authors of like, wow, you wrote a book?
Which is
Like,
still present. Yeah.
in 2011, when I published, I wrote my first book. I call it a self-defense book because we were getting all kinds of questions about Amazon and the FBA business. We were teaching, selling on Amazon, and there are a lot of new things coming out. Like the FBA program was coming out, so everybody had these questions. We were the first FBA, one of the first FBA sellers. We had the first FBA software, so people came to us with questions. Like,
Yeah.
what is FBA? Should I be using it? Like, can I trust Amazon with my inventory? What are the fees? So I wrote this really long PDF. And I was like, you know what? This is kind of like a book. Like, it's kind of in chapters. And I stumble on a CreateSpace. I upload it, and like that's it.
You're right.
Like, I thought that should be more complicated. Like, I should not be enjoying published author status as someone with no English degree. I'm not a writer. The book wasn't even particularly well written. Like, it was written. It wasn't bad, but it's certainly been better. But then I see how people start treating me and responding to me and inviting me to keynote events and all these things. I'm like, I'm just a regular guy, right? Like, but I'll take it. Like, sure, I'll come keynote your event.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, great, this was too easy. I'm seeing all this benefit. People are going to figure this out, and then everybody's going to have a book. And when everybody has a book, then nobody cares anymore. And guess who was wrong?
Yeah, exactly.
So wrong. It is more powerful today than it was back then, and it's just hard enough. And it's just I think part of it is enough people still think that publishing a book is hard. And I get that. I'm sure you get the exact same thing when you tell people, oh, it's actually really easy, and it can be done very quickly, and it doesn't cost anything. And they don't believe you. They're like, really? Really? I don't know what to tell you. And so it definitely keeps us in business in the sense of, like, there's people who need this information. They aren't able to get the information online for free because they're overwhelmed. Like, imagine Googling self-publishing and starting. Like, where would you start?
Exactly.
So it is a wide open opportunity for people building personal brands, for executives trying to get more business. Whatever you're trying to do, having a book is in a way a bit of a cheat code or a shortcut or a fast track to all kinds of things. And there's enough people who aren't doing it that the opportunity is there for the ones who sit down and say, yeah, I'm going to commit to doing this.
Yeah, absolutely. I
love it. So what's going to be your next book? Are you working on a next book?
I'm always working on a next book. So my last one was Performance-Driven Giving, and it hit the Wall Street Journal with one of those 99-cent ebook campaigns. But so it's all about unleashing the power of generosity in your life to gain favor. And it doesn't have to be money. It could be time, talent, attention, things like that. It's a phenomenal book. But that's the second in a series. First one was Performance-Driven Thinking, which is all about the mindset because you either perform well or you perform poorly. There's no in between. You make that decision every day. I'm either going to perform well or I'm going to perform poorly. You may not realize it, but you're making that decision. So my next one we're working on by request from our audiences that we've been speaking to is it's hopefully performance-driven leadership. That mindset of, hey, you're stuck in a leadership role and you may not have chosen it, and now you have an opportunity to stand up. It's going to be really, really good. Looking forward to it. Let's see. Jay and go ahead.
I was just going to, while we're on the topic of that book, because I know you also added a journal to go along with it, which I think is a very underutilized kind of bonus, something else that you can leverage. Say, look, hey, get the book, and I'll give you this as a bonus, either as digital, you want to print it out. Hey, if you don't want to waste all the ink in your printer, you can get it from Amazon for just a few bucks. They'll print it for you. It allows you to hold more books up on camera if you're doing something on Instagram. And the journal, the workbook, the implementation guides. I mean, Nick Hutchison from Book Thinkers is the one who put us together. And I think his book is one of the, I am so jealous of his book every time I kind of think about it, because it's the book that goes with every book.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, hey, if you want to get the most out of performance driven giving, you should pick up this book, because it's going to teach you how to, take better notes and kind of review what you want to learn and like pull out the best parts and apply them. Like, this works with every book. And the more books that you have that you can kind of combine, whether they're someone else's books like Nick's or multiple books of your own, because you're making a journal and a notebook and a course guide or whatever it might be. Now you can say, hey, buy the one book, and bro, I will send you 3 bonus books for just $5 more or something. And the cost structure of like, wait a minute, I can include, once I get that first sale, I can add these other things at a very low incremental price. And the customer is going to get like, whoa, I'm getting all of this. This is amazing. This is an irresistible deal. Like, I can't say no. I'm in.
Yeah.
And now you've got their name, their email, their phone number, their address. They've got your books in their hand. They're a paying customer instead of a non-paying customer.
Yeah.
And just the snowball just goes from there. And I think it's something that people really aren't thinking about. Like, you already have a book. Make a notebook. Make it like as simple. You can make it in an afternoon. Write your chapters out, and with some, what was your biggest takeaway from chapter 4?
Yeah.
Every author can have that. Every single one. Now you have a second asset in your business.
Yeah, I did it with a giving book, but it was a digital download only. I decided not to create the physical book. I may change that though. It might be a good idea just to have it, even though I give it away. But
I'm a physical book primary guy.
One of my favorite things is, this book is effectively 24 years old. First edition came out in 2000. Second edition came out in 2010. Did a light edition in 2020. But I'm still selling about 7,000 copies a year of this. But my biggest value is I've got a mastermind group around this book where I don't lead, I don't teach. I just facilitate 18 to 24 people at any given time. And they're paying me $300 a month to be a part of it. $80,000 a year on a 24-year-old book. I'll take that every day.
I would love to talk about those numbers, right?
Sure.
Because I think that's what people forget. They want to be the New York Times bestseller. They want to sell 1 million. It's always 1 million. It's like 1 million sounds really good in like this day and age, but like go 50 years from now, people are like 1 million. That's like not that many, right? Like inflation and numbers is going to change everything. Where like 1 million isn't this huge, crazy number anymore. But people think that to be like successful, they need to reach this huge audience and have a huge bestseller. And like you said, you can have like, if whatever your niche is, if you're able to provide value to people in that niche, you said like 18 to 24 people.
Yeah.
Right.
True.
And you can use your book to find those 18 to 24 people. And if you have some kind of offer set up, you're in business.
Yeah. And like I said, I don't teach, I don't lead. I just facilitate conversations around weapons that are working today. And that book never hit a bestseller list. I mean, obviously Amazon, but never hit any other, list. And we're killing it.
Yeah.
Now, I'm one of 4 authors in that book, but one of them has passed away. The other 2 are in retirement homes, so I'm on my own now, but I'm having fun with it still.
Have you read the book 80-20 Marketing?
Well, obviously 80-20 principle I'm well aware of, and marketing I love. It sounds familiar, but I don't remember. Is that I'd have to see the cover. Maybe. But
80-20 Marketing, it's Perry Marshall who put
yes,
80-20 Sales and Marketing. So this is another one that I bought on Audible. I listened to it multiple times, and then I bought the book. And the biggest thing that you get out of it, you don't have to go buy it because I'll tell you the biggest secret in it. And it's something that's obvious.
You have to do it anyhow.
Yeah, it's a great book. The big takeaway from it that I had that I really just didn't think of and seems incredibly obvious in hindsight is that out of the 20, there's an 80-20, right? So if you sell 1,000 books,
20, yeah,
that's it. And I think that's the perfect analogy for people who want to sell books. And forget sell books. Write a book in order to give it away, right? Just get it in people's hands. So if you can get your book in 1,000 people's hands and you go 80-20, you're gonna be like, okay, well, 800 people maybe read it or didn't read it or don't care. 200 people want more, right? So 200 people join your email list, right? Or they join your Facebook group or some kind of online community. Out of that 200, 20% of those are going to want more, right? Yeah. So 40 people are going to want your online course, right? Or your whatever your next offer is, or come to your event, whatever it might be. So I get those 40 people. Out of those 40 people, 20% want more. So that those 8 people, they're like, oh, you're having like a group mastermind. It's $300 a month. I'm in. So you can find those 8 people by giving away 1,000 books. And it's not that hard, in my opinion, with social media today to give away 1,000 books.
Oh my
But
gosh. Yeah.
but you have to have it set up to where they get your book and they join your email list, or at least have the option or the incentive to join your email list, and have, you continue to nurture them and demonstrate that, yes, I do have a level of expertise in this niche. And it can be a niche of niches, like the niche, way down crazy specific niche. And I've talked to some authors who, like, I generally try to say, like, like, write your book in order to give it away and build all these customers. But some of them are like, no, my book is not the right book to just give away to everybody. Like, I have a specific type of customer I'm looking for, and it makes total sense. So you do have to have like a plan in place and say, okay, what am I actually trying to do? Who am I trying to help? Uh, who I'm trying to help? Can they afford $300 a month? Can I provide $300 a month of value through my communication or by facilitating a group, whatever it might be? But
Yeah.
sit down. If you don't know how to do this, find somebody who knows how to do this. I mean, I know how to do this. You know how to do this. People can learn this skill. And I think it just makes it so much more realistic to be like, you don't have to find 10,000 people. You need to find 10,
Yeah.
20 on the planet. Like,
Lean into
it's
it.
really not that hard. And if you
Uh,
love the model and you're not good enough at anything, well, start getting really good at something, right? Become an expert. Spend the next 2, 3, 5, 10 years getting really good at a skill that can benefit somebody. Get really good at solving a problem
yeah.
that other people have. And then you're in business. And then the book is, in my opinion, the fast track, the easiest, the most proven way to do it.
Amen.
And it's fun.
And it's fun.
Like, here we are having a great conversation, like smiling and having a great time talking about this. And at the end is like, and you can actually make significant amount of money doing it
Yeah.
while helping people. It's like, it is kind of that perfect business model of like, I can't believe I get to do this every day. I get to
Yeah.
help people and make money, and I help them make money. And yeah, this is a very fun business.
The classic.
Yeah. So you don't have to buy 80/20 marketing. But it's whenever I hear that, like, hey, I only need this many people, it's like, take it backwards, right? But
Yeah.
it's 80/20 going backwards, and then it's like it becomes more realistic to somebody who maybe hasn't thought of it. Like, wow, it's easy for you to say, David, you have, this. Like, yeah, but it's really not that hard to do if you kind of
I
understand the numbers.
started with one book.
Everybody does.
Yeah.
Everybody does. The biggest mistake I made with my first book is I made it too long. It was kind of two books in one,
Uh-huh.
like in hindsight. And like when people got it, it was like, 350 something pages, which isn't the longest book ever, but it was pretty long to explain the topic I was explaining. So what did I just rewrote it, right? I took out some and I made it better. But
Nice.
everybody has to have that first book the first edition of my first book, which I still have one, has an uncapitalized I in it, which I consider the worst typo possible. Right? Like, I don't even know how Microsoft let it slide. Like, it usually fixes that automatic. Like, you almost have to try to put in an
Exactly.
uncapitalized I, but somehow it didn't catch it. I didn't catch it because the little red squiggle was like,
You can't see
microscopic.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I honestly, in hindsight, I love it because I don't know. I mean, it's not a huge story, but I reference it all the time to be like, guys, it's okay. Like, nobody cared.
No such
Like,
thing as a perfect book either.
yeah. And people worry about done is way better than perfect. And like, well, what if this, people aren't going to take me serious. I see a lot of publishing groups online, unfortunately, the free ones that sometimes give bad advice, where they say your book has to be really good because if you put out a book that's not great as your first book, it'll give a bad first impression. No one will ever pick you up because they'll say, oh, I saw your first book and it had typos in it. And I'm like, has that ever happened? Are y'all actually afraid of this? Because I've never seen that. I've never had that experience. Everybody's first book is going to be their worst book.
Oh yeah.
So get over it
Get over it.
and publish and be proud of your accomplishment and improve and move forward and take what you learned and make your next book even better. And
That's right.
I think I'm up to 72 books in my
Yeah.
KDP account.
That's awesome.
Well, they're not all actual books. Well, here, I've got these. So you remember when KDP started launching hardbacks, right? The hardcover books. So I published this book
The
because
smaller hardcover book.
because I want to see the size, right? So this is the minimum page count for a hardcover, and this is the smallest trim size. This was I want to see their 6.14 by 9. So I just made up a cover, obviously, and it's just it's just blank on the inside. And then I did this. I don't know how early these was. This is the largest hardcover book we can publish. But I actually this is my actual largest book, and it actually is like 500 pages,
Yeah.
hardcover, full color.
That's a
And
one.
This is pricey in color, although still no one else can print as cheap as Amazon. Like not even close, right? Like I published that book in black and white as well, and I think they charged me like $11. I went to my local printer when I was still writing up the manuscript, and like I feel like edit better on paper. So I was like, hey, can you just print this for me so I don't have to print it at home? They're like, yeah, it'll be $80. I was like, forget it, just keep it. I'll just edit it on the computer. So for $80, Amazon will do for $11 what they will do for $80.
Unbelievable.
And I sell that book for $200 on Amazon. So when I give it to people, they're like, "Oh my gosh, are you serious? This is like $200."
Yeah.
And I mean, you know all these stories, but for the people that are listening, that are thinking like, whoa, what, a $200 book, and like what are the dynamics behind it? I think, and tell me what you think about this. It's my opinion. There's a huge opportunity for authors to be publishing more expensive books in the $100, the $200, to $250 range that include digital downloads and exclusive access. And it could be a 1 hour phone call or a coaching call, or just like unlisted video content, password protected videos. And so basically what I do is I make an online course, which is sold on Udemy for 100, 200, some dollars. But then I sell it as a book. If you'd rather have a book that gives you access to the same content that's on Udemy, doesn't
Yeah.
matter to me. And people love the fact that it's a physical book. They can return it whenever they want. They trust the reviews. They love getting Amazon packages in the mail instead of Udemy access. Like no one cares about getting a free online course, right? Like even though it's the same content. And then you have a higher value item that you can give away. When I run challenges and courses, I say, look, I'll send you a copy of the book, and if you're not happy, I'll give you a full refund, and you can keep the book. And they're like, I can keep the $200 book? And I'm like, well,
Sure.
yeah, I mean, it only cost me like $11, and my refund rate is very low, and the course costs this much. Like, I know what I'm doing. But for them, it takes away all the risk. They're like, hey, I either love this, or I get a $200 book that I can freaking sell on eBay if I want to.
Yeah.
So it kind of takes away all of that, like not buyer's remorse, but like apprehend, like, should I buy this? Is this for me? It's $200. Like I'll take away all the risk. It's not a problem. I will put $11 on the line to say that you will love what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And that's why I love working with authors and entrepreneurs and people wanting to run these businesses, because it's like, guys, you can serve your customers in a very efficient way, in ways that other people can't, because they haven't taken the time to write a book.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things people can put in an expensive book.
You want to hear a cool example about a really high priced book? And we've only done this twice, but one was Harlan Kilstein's book. It was called "Steal This Book." He's a copywriter, and it was a big, like 7x10, 250 pages, and it had a retail price of $197. And we present that to our Barnes & Noble buyer, who at that point we had really good working relationship. We had great sales in Barnes & Noble brick and mortar, and they're like, we will never put a $197 book on our shelves. And come to find out, our best seller was Barnes & Noble brick and mortar. They sold more, and Amazon was giving it deep discounts back then, back when Amazon was doing like deep discounts, but we still sold more books through Amazon brick and mortar. People just found it and couldn't believe it and bought it. And the same thing happened with another Guerrilla book. We did a book called Guerrilla Marketing Lab, and it was only like 100-page book, but it included a whole DVD unpublished series with Jay just speaking right into a camera like this, and it was $197. And Barnes & Noble said the same thing. We will never buy that book for $100. It's like, we remember you did this before. Sure enough, Barnes & Noble was our biggest seller again.
Well, price says something, and that's an interesting thing. And I didn't think we'd get to this point, because but it's something I'm fascinated about. I've been talking with Nick a lot about it, and it's the science and kind of just the psychology of price.
Yeah.
To where if it's expensive, people think, oh, it must be good. Right now, it has to actually be good. You can't just price some crap high and be like, oh, people are going to pay for it. But a high price signals quality, it signals exclusivity, it signals all these things to the human brain. We're like, well, this book is $200, this book is $20, this book must be better. And generally, that's true, right? The marketplace is fairly efficient. If you go buy a $2,000 purse versus a $200 purse, that $2,000 purse is going to be significantly better in terms of quality. And like there is a limit to what people necessarily need. However, the price generally reflects, the quality of a product and all these different things.
And how
But
you buying it and what you do with it too.
yeah, and there's all kinds of things people get from, especially going into luxury goods versus just, an expensive version of a product. But I try to think back historically to where it was very difficult. You go all the way back like to Roman days to where like if a ship came to port, they would go up to the ship and be like, hey, do you have any books that we can copy? Right? Because they knew the value. Like they didn't have like all this knowledge written down and things they could pass down. It was like so much oral history. And all of a sudden a ship comes to town. They're like, maybe they have a book. And if they do, we can write it down and we can learn from what they have and how highly they value that kind of knowledge. And now we have access to every book in 2 days or less, or immediately through Kindle, and they're all $10, and we don't value it.
Yeah.
And I think it's a little bit of a human psychology that is kind of getting in the way of being like, well, it's not expensive, so it's not valuable. It's like, no, like imagine what it took to make an axe. If you had an axe 150 years ago,
Yeah.
right? Like that was a luxury item. It took a lot of time. You took care of it. Like it was special. Now we break an axe for like, who cares? I'll just go buy another one for $8. Like, so we don't value it.
Yeah.
Versus if you time traveled someone to the future today, they'd be like, you can buy an axe for $8. Are you serious? That used to cost $8,000, and like only 3 people in town had them, and like so we take all these things for granted. So I try to constantly remind myself to not take these things for granted. That I can get into a Tim Ferriss's head for $9.
Yeah.
Right. I can get into literally any like pillar of business icon on Amazon for $12. Like I don't have to ask Jeff Bezos a question. Right? I can know what he would say to any question by reading his books and watching a few videos and like, oh, if I had a question for Jeff Bezos, I pretty much know what he would say.
Yeah.
Or Steve Jobs or Bill Gates or literally anybody you can think of. You don't need to. And I think people do that almost as an excuse. Oh, if I could just ask Bill Gates a question, then my life I'd be able to move forward. Like you don't need that.
Yeah.
Like he's not going to tell you anything that's literally not in his book or on a video that he's done or an interview. And so I try to remind people this, like kind of, oh, wait a minute, I get all of this value from this book. And I'm just gonna be thankful that it's readily available and inexpensive. And I can look around and everybody else doesn't value it. That's okay. I understand because it's so much easier to go with the flow. It's like, am I the weird one that really values this $10 book and no one else does? And it's like, stop comparing yourself. It doesn't matter. But yeah, the knowledge you can gain through an inexpensive book is incredible. And I hope that I'm trying to work with Nick in a way to like bring that back through like a focused social media campaign to be like, guys, you have all this power here, so please just take advantage of it. But I feel the world's changed so fast that the humans haven't kept up. You know,
True.
Like someone 100 years ago would be like so amazed of everything today. They'd just be excited every day. Oh my gosh, I get to go on an airplane today. I get to drive in a car. This car's going like 70 miles an hour. Like, that was the world record like 100 years ago. And now we're like, oh, it's so slow. Look at this guy in front of me.
Yeah, they thought you'd die if you go faster than 25 miles an hour.
And some people probably did because they were driving around in like a steel box that, the car was considered more important than the people. So they built the cars like solid as a rock.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't get damaged if they hit anything. And then, of course, that wasn't good for the people. They used to roll cars down hills to make sure that the car survived.
That's funny.
Forget the people. We gotta make sure this car is tough enough to survive rolling end over end down this hill. So yeah, I see all these things. I just try to compare and be like, what would it be like to live back then? And then what would those people be like if they lived today? And then just kind of find that balance and just be appreciative. Because I love talking about self-publishing, as you can probably tell, and I can tell you do as well, because it's so amazing. Like the fact that we can publish a book, literally anybody can publish a book and have it available on Amazon and get the benefits from that is something that's not going away anytime soon. So I hope a lot of people, their interest is piqued a little bit and be like, I need to know more about this. So tell me a little bit more about your business, because I'm guessing you don't just tell people just go to KDP and knock yourself out. Like you do some publishing yourself as well.
Yeah. So I started Morgan James Publishing 21 years ago after my experience with traditional and self-publishing. The pros and cons to every decision you make, as a human. But there were things that I really liked about traditional publishing: credibility, distribution, opportunity kind of thing, being able to be on the media, that kind of clout all that stuff. But the relationship was non-existent, and I made no money, and it was just frustrating. And the self-publishing was amazing, as you well know. But then and partly now, you really struggled to get in bookstores, or back then you couldn't. Media didn't give you the same attention because their producers required that the show vet their authorities, and they don't have time to vet the people that come in there. So they just let a publisher be the one that vets, And I couldn't sell them as fast as I could sell my traditionally published books, and it was just pros and cons. So I was just frustrated. So I sat down with Jay and I said, "Hey, I wish there was a better place for we entrepreneurs, authorpreneurs back then, entrepreneurs to publish, but have the publishers stay the heck out of our way." And he kind of alluded to me that he would take it to Houghton Mifflin if I kind of gave him an outline for what a really publishing model could look like for entrepreneurs. So, I put my heart and soul into it. I wanted, eventually, thought that, bookstore distribution, credibility, opportunity, all that was important, but the relationship with the publisher I thought was more. And then dagnabbit, one of the biggest complaints that I got from my publishing house, though I was selling well, was I'm not selling enough. But nobody told me how to sell books. I had to figure that out on my own. And so I put this outline together, heavily layered in guerrilla marketing, a lot of Zig Ziglar, a lot of values-based selling, and said, "Here it is." And he said he loved it. And he said, "Now go do it." I'm like, "Wait, Jay, you said you'd take it to Houghton Mifflin." So we decided to try it. I mean, I had a full-time day job as a banker, so I wasn't quitting my day job. So I said, "Sure, we'll try it." And launched it in 2003. And I think we just had the right idea at the right time. Publishers Weekly called us the first hybrid publisher, where we really were trying to do the best of both worlds. I really was trying to get books in bookstores. We really were trying to be exclusive on what we published, and we focused primarily on that, business nonfiction author that could leverage the power of the book, like I did as a banker. And I think we just had the right idea at the right time and just grew into it. Had a first New York Times bestseller in 2005, had 4 in 2006, and then got just accolade after accolade. Just our authors just proven themselves, selling a lot of books, and earned physical bookstore distribution. And then fast forward to like 2020, Publishers Weekly called us an unconventional traditional publisher, which was exciting because unconventional, that's a big guerrilla word. I love that. The traditional side terrified me, but I do think they see us that way for the right reasons, because my vision kind of did come together, and I'm looking forward to where we're going now. But we look and feel and smell like a regular, typical traditional publisher, which is both good and terrifying. But we're exclusive. We only do 200 books a year. It's a bandwidth thing. We're having fun. But right now, 100% of our books are showing up on brick and mortar shelves. Now, the depth and breadth can vary, but there's a huge opportunity. In fact, we've even taken previously self-published books and put them into our model, and sales 60% higher than they were with the self-publishing model. And just kind of grew into it. We pay small advances, which is about the optics of publishing, because we're not leveraging an advance loan, against future earnings to get them to surrender their IP, because our authors retain intellectual property.
That's a big one.
It's huge. And we make decisions together. Now, my first publisher may have been Extreme, where they made all the decisions without me, but I keep hearing stories that's still going on. So we make all of our decisions together. And then we work together on the old crud now. Actually, we start early, because the best time to start marketing a book is the moment you decide to write it. And pre-orders matter. Like, for instance, I could get any book in Barnes & Noble if we can pre-sell 300 before pub date. I mean, that's the relationship we have with B&N, and it's really important. So all that's working. But our real success, I think, and our real value ends up being that unconventional side, where we actually have a relationship with our authors, and we help them achieve their goals. And we, work together about, what are the best practices? How can we do what we need to do, but be effective without wasting time or money, and help them realize their goals? And that's been so much fun. So that's kind of where we're at today. Look and feel and smell like a regular publisher, but you really have that relationship with the author, and our authors are just killing it on the back end.
Who's an ideal author to either hire you, work with you, like however you kind of find that relationship? Someone's, because yes, this is what I want to do, and this is the path that I should go, versus doing completely self-publishing or trying to hang out and say, "They'll only work with the big guys," kind of thing. Describe your ideal client.
And it's funny, our success stories don't necessarily have anything to do with the number of books sold. As you well know, is how you leverage.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
My author is the entrepreneur, the entrepreneurially minded person, whether they're a W-2 employee, whether they're a counselor or banker like me. who has something good to say. They're an authority in their space or wanting to be an authority in their space, and they can leverage the fact that they've written a book to grow their business, because then that's ended up how we sell so many books. But I love working with the Jeff Walkers, the Russell Brunsons, the Brenda Burchards, the Jay Levinsons of the world. We even published Tom Hopkins. We love those guys. But
I've got most of them here.
I know. You got a lot of Morgan James books. I am absolutely positive. But I love giving authors that are on their way up a chance. So we don't have to only work with the big authors. As long as they're coachable, 80% of our decision is who are they, what are they doing, and why? Because you can always hire a better editor. I mean, heck, you can delete it and start over with a new ghostwriter, but you can't fix an author that doesn't really care about their audience or is just doing it for a fluff or a credibility piece. And that's fine. That's still a good thing to do. But we love it when we can help an author realize their goals. They have a relationship with their readers. They can do the 80-20. They can build their business, because that's how we end up selling so many books. So
Sure.
Even now, 21 years later, we have a faith division. We have a clean fiction division. Heck, we even have a kids division. But the common core is every one of those authors are entrepreneurs, and the books are part of something bigger. So that's our author. Like Jay and I wrote a book called The Entrepreneurial Author. I mean, that is the sweet spot for us. That's our true goal.
Well, that's why when I had the opportunity to pick up Authorpreneur.com, I'm like, oh, yes, that is the best
good.
word to describe it. They undersold it big time. They had it for sale, and I sent them an offer. I was like, well, if they take this offer, I'll be happy. And then they took it. So I was like, oh, well,
nice.
I'm glad I put my offer out there. And I use that as another example for anybody who's like, well, I see something and it has if it has best offer on it, give them a best offer.
Yeah.
Right. You never know what they're going to take. I also work a lot with domain names, and I haven't written a book on domains. I'm close to say I would. 'Cause I've done a domain challenge where I get, because I work with authors. And I think every book should have a website, or at least your author should have a website and be intentional about it. I'm super vain on domains too. So I'm like, get your name domain, or like get your book title domain,
even
something
if they
like that.
Someplace, but you have to own it.
Yeah. Yeah, even if it just redirects to your LinkedIn page, like I don't care. To have something, like own that.
I bought my name in the 90s, but I was even too late. I couldn't get DavidHancock.com. I had to get DavidLHancock.com. Even in the 90s, I was like, damn it. So I have all my kids' names.
You have a fairly common name, as do I. I had to buy my ChrisGreen.com from the first ChrisGreen.com, or that bought it. It was expensive. It was more than, my wife was like, are you serious? I was like, I do, because I'm building a personal brand. So like for me, it was important. Like if someone's not building a personal brand, then yes, the budget will dictate that. But I hear a lot of parents now naming their kids, making sure that their domain is available or the social media handles are available, which I love. But get this. So, my last name is Green, and they actually released a .green extension, right? For like,
for green technologies or something.
Yeah. So I picked up Chris.Green as soon as it came out. I've got my wife's name, my daughter's name. I don't have my son's name. There was another. They held back some of the names, and then a David.Green bought David, or David Green bought the David.Green. So I pick up domain, thinking ahead for my kids and things like that. And I think authors should be thinking ahead as well. Like, hey, if you're going to write this book, I mean, I've already registered the domains for the books on my list of what books I'm going to write in the future, if I ever get around to them, kind of thing.
I love it.
But try to be prepared, because a domain name is like, it's one, right?
Yeah.
Once someone gets it, you may not have the chance to get it again. And they're fairly inexpensive, $10 a year or so to hold on to. Have you looked up the original DavidHancock.com?
Yeah, he's an artist in the UK, and he's still not ready to let go of it yet.
Well, you have contacted him and saying you are interested.
Yeah. Same thing with MorganJames.com. It was an ad agency in the 90s, and the guy's old and very friendly. And for years and years and years, he hadn't updated the website, and he still wasn't willing to sell it. But I've got that relationship with him, so maybe one day. And that's jazz singer Morgan James and I have always friendly battled over some domains. She got some I wanted, I got some that she wanted, but I actually gave her one. She gave me one. It's fun.
Well, it's good to be friendly and have relationships. Yeah,
I would love to talk more. I definitely want to figure out how I can serve you in any capacity. But I got a call at the top hour. I had no idea it had already been an hour, man. I'm so sorry.
That was a quick hour. So yeah, definitely we'll definitely connect again, I'm sure, and talk some more. But definitely let people know where the best place is to find you online. for people that want more information about you and your company?
Yeah. So I'm easy to find on social media, but morganjamespublish.com, is probably the best place. And I'm a big giver, as we talked about giving stuff away. Could I give your audience a gift?
Sure, of course.
If you go to performancedrivengift.com, that's performancedrivengift.com, you can download this Wall Street Journal bestseller, The Power of Unleashing Generosity in Your Life. Phenomenal.
Perfect.
You can get the ebook or the audio, and there's no upsell. Just want you to have it, because the more you change other people's lives, the more you'll change your life.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate that gift. I will put that down in the show notes. If someone doesn't want to write it out, they can just look down below. They'll be able to click on that and get the free copy of your book. So you are easy to find. You are on LinkedIn. Your books are on Amazon, as well as Morgan James Publishing. They can put that in and find information for you there. I appreciate you coming on. And yes, we will definitely talk more about publishing. And that was a quick hour. That was really quick.
No, right? I'm grateful. It's so good to see you, Chris. Thank you for spending some time with me this morning.
Yeah, you bet. And thanks for Nick for connecting us. Shout out to Nick Hutchison from Book Thinkers. All right. Thanks, David. We'll chat again soon.
Thanks. Bye.
Welcome to the Authorpreneur podcast, where we talk to authors and business owners about how they are using books to market themselves and their businesses. I'm your host, Chris Green, and in each episode of the Authorpreneur podcast, we talk to a successful author and business owner to see exactly how they are using their books and author status to grow their businesses and serve their customers. We'll talk about what's working, the benefits of becoming a published author, and we may even come up with some creative new marketing strategies. In this episode of the Authorpreneur podcast, I talk with David Hancock, author of Performance-Driven Giving, the roadmap to unleashing the power of generosity in your life, and Guerrilla Marketing for Writers, 100 no-cost, low-cost weapons for selling your work. David is the founder of Morgan James Publishing and the Ethan Awards, and he has co-authored 12 books, including The Entrepreneurial Author and Performance-Driven Thinking. David also serves as president of the executive board for Habitat for Humanity Peninsula in Greater Williamsburg and is the chairman of the board of the National Center for the Prevention of Community Violence. David's books are available on Amazon, and I really think you're going to enjoy this episode.